drag music and the bed we go to. This is Paul and Rupert.
We're back!
Coming out with a brand new thought, covered under the blood in which we were born. So we know how to get to.
Is for bold, A is for active, D is for determined. When you consider King David valiant, you have an idea and understanding of undertaking this. Stay tuned.
Hallelujah, revive us again.
We are excited to bring fresh commentary, good conversation with two bad men. Boy, you don't want to miss this. Bad Man for Christ. Join us.
Stands for determined, just like Peter when he did his first sermon. As the saying goes, bad men for Christ. That is how we'll be for the rest of our life. Sit back, relax, and enjoy our show because you're stuck in the house with nowhere to go.
Oh my goodness. Hallelujah. Welcome.
We are back.
Yes. Another edition. Overseer number 24. We've been doing this for 24 Mondays.
Woo! That's
yes.
the number. We're going. 2400. Pseudo be 2400.
Well, I don't know about the 2400. You know how old I would be? I'd probably be walking in there with a cane or something of that nature. Well, we thank you. We want to welcome our audience to BadMan Show. We're delighted and we're glad. We're happy to have you on this Monday evening. And Overseer, we want to talk about Father's Day. It's coming up, so we want to talk a little bit about fathers. Fathers. This should be a very, very interesting conversation.
I believe so.
Because you grew up with a dad in the home, you know, all the way up, you know, until you were grown and you know all of that.
Yeah.
And in my case, my parents were divorced when I was around 11, 12 or 13, somewhere around there. So I know that this is going to be a very good conversation.
Yes.
And I'm hoping that our audience are ready with questions. And Overseer, be prepared. We may have to pull in the producer because I think he has a burning question that he wants to ask you.
Yeah,
but
I think it will all depend on how nice he is. It will depend upon how nice he is. If we pull him in.
To begin with, though, let us just get this off by talking about. Do you have any idea of what plans your family have for celebrating Father's Day?
I think mine is pretty easy because I'm going away tomorrow on vacation with the family, so we'll be flying back on Father's Day. The plans will be to get on a plane and fly back home. So see, that's how much Father's Day is important to my family. I couldn't even get a day on vacation during Father's Day. It's a traveling day. You see that's how important it is. You see that?
But the fact is, they're gonna have you for all to themselves for at least a week.
There better be something big on Saturday I don't know about. There better be something going down on Saturday that I'm not aware of right now. That they're gonna be Happy Father's Day. Yay! I hope so.
Well, for me, I know my family. They're usually planning a little cookings and eatings and dinner, and I am not expecting any great surprise. I really am not. I'm not expecting any great surprise, but it's a routine over the years. Now they may shock me now that I say it, and I know Mrs. Brown is listening, but they don't have to come up with anything magnificent or great. I usually just tell over the years I have shared with my children, I says, if you do well, if you do good in school when they were in school, if you finish college that's the greatest gift that they can actually give to me as a dad.
Yeah, no, that to me is what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to do. That's not my Father's Day gift. But that's so. So is there anything any year that they surprised you with something?
Oh yes,
was
yes.
Any year where you said, "Oh my God, this is awesome."
Yes, I've been surprised a couple times.
What you do?
Oh, you mean what? The first surprise was like breakfast in bed. Yeah, that was a surprise. The first breakfast in bed was a shocker. That I didn't expect that. Yes, yeah, that was like, oh really? Because unlike I am a very particular, when it comes to breakfast, and I normally do not eat breakfast that often. So that was a surprise.
That was a surprise.
I believe no. That wasn't a Father's Day surprise. Mrs. Brown had a trip planned. That was an anniversary. That wasn't a Father's Day.
Okay. Yeah. For me, I think it was they had a breakfast in bed one time, which was really cool. But it's really hard. They've tried to do other surprises before, but normally I find out somehow, some way, the Holy Spirit reveals things to me.
Oh, really? Oh, stop! What, really?
I don't spoil the surprise. I'm like, I knew it was coming.
Really?
For today. So the one time they got me on, I think it was a birthday. Never on Father's Day. I think one time they were so happy that they got the church. Everybody got me. That was one time. But you remember my 50th, right? That was supposed to be a surprise. Yeah, I knew about it. I found out. So there was surprise. I've been pretty good with catching surprises. Been pretty good.
I mean, but for Father's Day, it's challenging because it's an annual thing, and to kind of you have an anticipation that something might be happening, so your antennas are kind of up,
right?
So yeah.
Okay.
All right, overseer. So now, like for me now, I mean, I did not grow up with a dad in the home after 13 years old. And so talk to me a little bit of what is it like to be through your eyes now that you're a father. What was that like growing up with a dad, 14, graduating and so forth? What was that like?
Well, okay, so I was in a neighborhood growing up where most of my friends, their fathers were there, except for one, I think, one of my friends, but that's when I was a little bit older. So as a child, I really didn't know that it was anything special, right? It wasn't really talked about. It was something that was just growing up. So growing up with a dad in the house was nice for me because my dad was very playful. I was an athlete. He was even for his age, he was very still athletic. I remember racing him when I was 12 and barely beating him. And I was an athletic, fast kid. So when I said, man, I just barely he beat me when I was 12. And I said, how in the world does this guy beat me? Then I looked at his age. And when I was 12, he would have been 63, 62. And I was like,
really?
Oh, no. This old man is never going to beat me again. So that was the time from that part. I said, he did not beat me again. But he was pretty athletic. So, but again, my dad, of course, was a pastor. So a lot of stuff that maybe other sons or other children would have received, I had to share with the ministry because of the fact that, it was something where I guess the fact that I had to share him with God because that God was his career. His boss was God. And there were things. So a lot of the outings other kids might have done, there were my friends were maybe going to baseball games or the football games with dad. I was going to church. I was driving with dad in the car. I was doing this. And when I got older, I drove dad. I carried that stuff. Because when I was a teenager, he was almost when I was like, 16, 17, he was almost 70. So my dad was older. Most people wouldn't have known he was 70 looking at him because he still was strong a lot. But I knew he was. So a lot of things that I would have, done differently. But, when I played sports, my dad wasn't at every game. We're saying because my dad came to the games. But my dad came when he could because again, games were on Tuesday night. That was Bible class and prayer service.
Right.
Games were on Friday. He might have been out visiting somebody. But if my game was on a Wednesday, yeah, I would see my dad, especially for soccer because my dad loved soccer. That was something that he did. But a lot of times he had to drop me off at games or practices and then go back home and come back to get me because of his schedule. But saying all of that though, I knew my dad loved me because of that exact reason. If there was ever a spare moment, he didn't say I'm too tired or I can't. He would say, okay, I'll do it, or okay, I'll be there. And that was special because then I knew that I knew my dad loved me. And wasn't one of those kids who was pushed back by the fact that to share him. Maybe that's why I'm a pastor today, because maybe that was instilled for me from a young age. But I never was removed by not sharing. I was never, put back by seeing my other friends' parents in the stands and mine weren't, because I knew they had a calling on their life. They had to do it. But also because whenever they had the opportunity to be there, especially my dad, my mom didn't like sports, but my dad, they didn't miss. And then, I have this question for you.
No, but I want to follow up with a question. Hold my question. Okay. How did it feel, man, that you're walking into a big convocation and you're carrying Dad's Bible and briefcase? How did you feel a level of confidence or like, whoa, look at me? How did you feel?
Well, you knew my dad. So my dad was a humble guy. Bishop Saunders Sr. and Bishop Rupert Johnson, two of the most humble men that I knew. He was a humble guy. So he didn't instill in me that it was any big deal. Being a bishop walking in was his call, but he wasn't any more important than the lay person in the pew. That was his. He used to tell people, if you can't call me Bishop Johnson, call me Brother Rupie. Right.
But I'm talking about you. How did you feel?
What I'm saying though, but that's what I'm saying. So I'm saying because it wasn't a big deal to him, it wasn't a big deal to me because he instilled in me, don't put yourself more than you ought to. So for me, carrying the Bible was carrying the Bible for my father, not for a bishop. And it didn't make a difference with the venue because I would have carried it for him in church or I would have carried for him in the service. But to tell you the truth, during convocations, I took care of my mom more than I took care of my dad because that way my dad didn't take care of my mom during convocation. So where my sister would look out for daddy, I'm looking out. I took his responsibility. So I pushed mommy into convocations. I helped mom around. I didn't, the adjutant helped mom. My job, and I even to this day, I thank Deacon White because Deacon White was his adjutant. So at that time when he was really older, I was already working on staffs, working in ministry. So I was running around too. Deacon White, the adjutant, took care of him. I told Deacon White, man, I bless you and I love you because when I could not be there for Dad, you were there. But so there wasn't really a to it because Dad wasn't But let me ask you your question, because how do you feel then, or what was that kind of the emotions that you had when you played? Because you played sports, you did things also. You went to college, you came to America, did very well for yourself, graduated, got your master's and your bachelor's and all this stuff. You were highly decorated at Drexel. And you saw other people there with their dads and, come take pictures. How did you feel not growing up with that figure from your teenage years to your college years?
Well, part was missing. Definitely. I mean, you experience, you see it, moms and dads with your friends, and they're taking pictures, and you knew something was missing. The blessing was my mom was was a very a great mom, and despite the fact that dad wasn't, my mom never said a bad word or anything demeaning, that would have caused, any type of feeling to have come up. And I think that was one of the greatest thing that mom did. I to all of us. I have 4 siblings, because you never hear those denigrating words about who, that father, those criticisms and all that stuff. Those negative vibes were just not there, and I think that's what allowed at least me to be able to function even at a more better level, because I did not grow up around that level of negative criticisms about a father that just was not there. Mom shone a light on the positive side, and so in all of those things that you mentioned, mom was there, smiling. We always had a celebration, and that was a blessing. But yet something was missing. I knew something was missing, and the blessing of church now. So church came, church played a significant role, because there were father figures in the pastors, the bishops. One that comes to mind, Bishop Henry Allen Gibbs, was instrumental in sharing him being a father, allowing me to be a part of his family. So that's one of the great blessings that the church provides. And if you're able to capitalize on it, it actually helps and help you to develop me into the person that I am today.
Wow. So do you think that, so what did you, so you knew something was missing. Did you ever know what it was? Did you ever figure out, like, as a young man, I'm sure you do now as a father yourself, but at that point, did you ever say, you know what, I'm going to find my father because, or this, or I'm going to seek after, or did you just say, you know what, if he doesn't want to be part of my life, that's fine. I'm going to, do A and B when I get to be daddy. Did it drive you into where you are now as a father?
Well, yes. But, even though something was missing, my youngest brother, I kind of shared certain learnings. When I learned certain things that I believe a dad would have passed on to me, I kind of trickled that down to him. So there was this little role that was being played as I was growing up before I actually became a dad myself, that I was sharing with my youngest brother. So when I became a dad, I had a little bit of practice. So, I know he might be listening, so I want to give him a shout out, Pastor Wayne Brown. You didn't know that you were being a guinea pig, but I thank you so much, and your big brother loves you because he tested out some of those things before he actually used it on his own children. Yes, sir. So now we had a question. Our producer bring up that question because we've been going for a little bit.
So the question is from Brother Walsh. God bless you, man. Thanks for being an avid listener. You said, for sons and daughters that did not grow up with a father in the house, what are the top 3 things the sons and daughters don't know they don't know? So I guess as being a father, I can answer because I grew up with them. But so for you, what are the top 3 things that you didn't know as a child growing up that you as a father is saying, if I knew that then, it would have been nice. So I'm going to teach my kids this. Like, what things do you think?
3, that's a very good question. 3 top things that when I was growing up, that I did not know. You see, that's Brother Walsh, that's tough because I'm an avid reader. So I would like to say one thing that I know for certain is that I did know was you needed so like when I was getting married, having a father, you could have some kind of discussion. You know, you having somebody who you can go talk to, is good. I didn't realize how much that was important until, yeah.
So answer the question. So what did you tell your son about being married that you wish you got to know? That's one of them, right? So what did you tell your son? You have a son. What did you tell your son about the how to find a wife that you would have wished you knew?
Well, my son.
Yeah.
Well, this age that they know a lot, right?
Yeah, but you still told him
So
something.
what I try to tell my son about being is it's one of the best thing that he can do, that it will provide a lot of stability for him. And in fact, married men live longer than single men.
Okay. So, and I'm sure that's the conversation. So what did you tell your son about school or about jobs that you would have liked to have known, or a school that you might have liked? Well, school not really, but jobs. I'm sure Dad's always talked to us about your work ethic. So what did you tell your son about the work ethic that your mom might not have told you, but you found out on your own?
Well. One of the things that I tried, what I tell my son is, I said, son, your last name is Brown. You are a Brown.
Yeah.
There is nothing that you cannot do if you actually put your mind to it. I didn't have a dad to tell me that.
Right.
And then one of the greatest thing that I actually tell my son, is to let him know that I love him. Right. I love him. And because didn't have a dad that actually shared on that type of emotions with me. So to let him know that he's able to make it.
There you go. So so those are three things right there. So you answered the question. I mean, you kind of it's a tough question, but you just got to think of what you told your son that you probably didn't get. Right. That's important. So so there's a good question with the Walsh. And so again, please, if you are watching us right now, we appreciate you, but we would love for you, if you have not liked or subscribed this on Facebook or YouTube, please do so. Send us out, share us on your Facebook pages with your friends, let them know about BadMan, for the BadMan Show and BadMan for Christ. We love to have them there, so please do it. Also, if you have any questions or comments that you have about maybe you or what you want to know, because maybe you didn't have a father growing up, or maybe because you have a son and you don't know how to share with him, hey, ask us the question. Let's see if we can answer it for you. As Bishop Brown said, the great thing is you have a young man who grew up with the father in his house. You got a young guy who didn't grow up with the father in his house all of his life. So we hope that we can answer your questions. Amen.
So overseer. So let me ask you then. A good father. How do you know whether or not you're a good father? So you see, now you had
Wow.
an example. Role model, right? So you can say, well, dad was a good father. So someone like me who grew up without a dad, how would you actually provide some type of insight as to how do you know I'm a good father?
Because my ego says I am. No. No, I think, to be totally honest, I think I wasn't as good, or I'm still not as good with my children that came from my wife's first marriage, as good as I should have been. I'm trying to do better with that side. That's why I'm so appreciative that we're all going away to on vacation together, because we haven't done it in about 3 years. but I get to do some fathering on vacation with all of my kids, because I don't look at them as, I don't call them stepchildren. They're my kids, regardless of what age I got them at. They're my kids. So I'm trying to do a better job with the first set. Now with my biological daughter, I think I'm doing a good job because I noticed the things that I didn't do with them that I'm trying to do with her, and also instilling some of those things that my dad would do with her, but adding a little few things. As I said, in growing up, my dad's was church, and I understood that. I think my siblings understood that dad was church. That was his thing. In today's generation, church is not a career to these kids. If I say, what do I do for a living, Dad? I'm a pastor. They're like, that's not a job. I'm like, okay, it is a job, by the way. It's a very difficult job, but that's what I do. So they don't look at it that way. So I have to do some things extra. I made sure that I read with my youngest daughter. I make sure if she says, Daddy, can you stay with me for a little while tonight? I do that. She says, if she says, Daddy, can we go here or can I go with you? I try to do those things. It's very difficult for me when I say, no, you can't go with me to do this. I have to go. So whenever I have a chance. So I think I'm a good dad. And on my 50th birthday, my little one, as you were there, she danced to a song, You're a Good Father, for me. So I would take that as I'm doing a good job so far.
So what would you tell, and what you tell young fathers that grew up without a dad in the home? What would you say to that young man as to how much time? What is the right amount of time that he should allocate? And how challenging it is, to be able to provide for a family. Some have to be working multiple jobs. So how would you share with what advice would you give a young man that grew up in a home without a dad, that now has his family of his own? What would you tell him to make sure that he actually reached to that stage of being a good father?
Tired isn't an excuse you can give to your child. That's not a liable excuse. I'm tired. That's not liable. It's not an option. Being tired is what you will be until your kids are grown. Because they do need, and different kids need different amount of attention. Some kids, you can just sit down there with them, watch TV, they're cool. Some kids want to play games. Some kids want to go outside. Some kids want to get ice cream. Some kids got to stay up late. Some kids don't want to stay up late. Kids are different. So you being tired is not an option. That means that if you notice that you haven't spent time with the child, whether you can be working 2 jobs, you can be working a job and making good money and bringing time and bringing things into the house. But time spent, any time spent, because kids will learn that you're busy and that you couldn't spend a lot of time, but any free time you had, you spent it with them. So when you have time, spend it with them. Secondly, I would tell them that buying things is not you being a good father. Purchasing and buying things is spoiling your child, which is fine. You can do that. That's up to you. But that doesn't make you a good father. A child would rather you than what you can buy them. No matter what the child says, no matter how the child reacts, they would rather you than what you buy them. If I buy my child a game, she wants me to play the game with her. Why? Because then she's doing it with me, right? So she loves the game, but she'd rather play with me. And so it's not about what you buy them or what you give them. Maybe, especially at the younger age, maybe at the older age, yeah, you can buy them. They'll be happy to get a car. They'll be happy, they'll be good. But at a younger age, it's the time you spend with them. So being tired is not an excuse. Don't make an excuse. And then also buying things doesn't replace you.
I have a follow-up question to that.
Okay.
Now your dad was being a bishop and a pastor, and you mentioned that he also not only being a good father in your home, but he also extended himself to the church. What advice do you have for good fathers that are in the church as to what role they can play in the lives of young men and women in the church who they realize that there's not a father in their homes? What do you say to those men?
That's a tough one, Bishop, because again, you know my dad. They used to call me Dancing Bishop. So the two things that I've learned from my dad watching him was, one, worship wasn't an option. It was a must. Regardless of who you are, regardless of your title, worship was not an option. So for me, it's not an option. It's what I love to do because it's what I learned from my father. Number two, I learned from him that crying is not a problem if you're a real man. If you cry, there is nothing wrong with that because that's just you sharing your feelings with those around you, and it's okay. My dad wasn't a crybaby, but he would cry, and he would often show his tears. He wouldn't show tears in frustration or in pain, but he showed trust. He showed his tears in joy, and in the happiness of those around him. When others were happy, he was crying because it made him happy to know people were happy. So I learned that from him, and that was something that I very appreciative. The other thing I learned from my father in watching him, and this is what I would tell those folks that you were talking about. Your child is watching you. So the example that what you do will play a role in that boy or girl's life because they are watching you. You may not think, even as a teenager, you may not think they're watching you, but they're watching you. And you have it at the more that you show them what it means to be a good person, a good Christian. And if you're dealing with a young boy, to be a good man, the more you show them, the more they are going to be that. But if you are neglectful, if you're not doing some of those things, they're not going to do it. I know to, help my wife at certain times. I don't let my wife carry bags. I mean, not only did my dad teach me that, but my mom taught me that too. But those are things that we did. So that's what I would tell them.
And for me though, I just want to reiterate again how much of a role that, like I said, Bishop Henry Allen Gibbs was able to kind of bring me in to his family, being a young man that didn't have a father in the home, to actually pass on certain instructions and guidance, and so really want to iterate good fathers that are in the church. You also have a responsibility not only to your kids, your children, but also to some of the ones that are in the church, because you can be a great influence.
Wow, that's a great answer. That's a great answer. Our producer, bring the next question in. Make sure we don't skip anything. So it says, who suffers more from a missing dad, sons or daughters? What do you think, Bishop?
I think both.
Response. What do you think?
I think both, but I think daughters daughters, I think, suffers much more than sons, because daughters will tend to go look for the father that they didn't have, and they could end up with a rascal.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think that daughters miss out by not having a good father. Now, you can be a father at home and not be a good father. So this is, you could be just a bad father, period, because you're not doing the right things. But for missing that good father, I think that the daughter suffers because she does not know, unless the mother brings in a good stepfather. Thank God. Hopefully I'm a good example to my daughters, what you should have as a good father. Their father's in their life too, and I'm sure that they love him. And yes, they do. I'm not sure they do love him, and hopefully he's a good example there at his house. But hopefully my daughters look at me and think I'm a good example in my house. I think boys do suffer also, but I think that boys can compensate a lot of times because they might have uncles, they might have that grandfather, they might have that other person, but there's not that person that a woman loves like a wife loves her husband. And oftentimes the daughter doesn't even know how to treat her husband. So oftentimes TV shows or things they talk about is what she thinks is the right way to treat your husband. And oftentimes they're not. And that's why a lot of times these daughters, like you say, get into relationships where they're harmful and they're not good.
Right.
And I think it also the follow-up question. Bring something else in, but a follow-up question to you though is that how did you know that you were a good husband teaching your daughters? Like, how do you know? Like, is there something that clues to you that your daughters are saying, yeah, that's the type of man I want? Like, are there any clues? Are you getting those clues, or did they say it to you?
Oh yeah. I get some clues, and some clues. I also I wouldn't want to mention online. but I do get clues. Oh yeah. I think my daughters loves their father without a doubt. And of course I know, as you say, you when you grew up without a father, you can use you can employ activity. My father was not like, I didn't have this from my dad, so I'll make sure I'll do this with my children. My father wasn't there for this for me, therefore I'll be this for them. So you could actually do some of that as well. However, it is good to hear some type of affirmation, from your children. So of course, your birthday cards sends a message. Your birthday card sends a message. Father's Day card sends a message as well. So you listen for clues, and you also listen also for what they're actually sharing with others.
Right. And that's the kind of what our good friend Sister Moss also says. Your wife and children's testimony says a whole lot as you being a good father, and we agree with that.
Yes, absolutely. What our producer have a question. Bring him on in. Bring him in. Let him ask his question.
Producer.
Yeah, so this is a good time to bring. This is a good time to bring him in.
You know how I feel about our producer, so I was. It's better not be a.
I know it's all love, man. It's all good. Yeah. One of the questions I was asking is, should a son or even a daughter, should a father have to direct what career path they take, and especially if they're in the church, and push them towards that, or should just give them the opportunity to make a choice for themselves? Like in the Middle East, they don't get to do that.
You mean when it comes to a career path or a marriage path? Which one are you talking
marriage path and career path, yes.
Okay. So should fathers interfere in their sons or daughters' lives when it comes to marriage and career? Okay, I'm gonna let Bishop go first, and then I will answer.
I think he's running away from. I also think that he also wants to know, this is me, whether or not they should follow in their father's footsteps. I think, and my position is no. I believe that that fathers are to nurture their children, and then allow them to actually make the choice and decisions for themselves. Now, and whatever decision they make, be there to actually assist, right? For so my son decided to go the path of police. He wants the career. Now, I don't think that is a great, my opinion, that he should actually go that way. I believe ministry, right? Because that's what I am. But rather, I don't discourage him. I'm there supporting him. I am with him, and so forth. Same for my daughters as well. So I believe that we should let them make that decision. And if they gravitate towards my vocation, of course it brings great joy. But I'm also as joyful for whatever they choose and stand to nurture and help them to be the best that they can be with that.
All right.
What about marriage now? What about marriage? Because you answered
for for marriage, this is and I don't want to spill the beans here, but I love if they march in and saying, Dad, I want to introduce you to this fine Jamaican gentleman. But of course, they are Americans, overseer. They are Americans, so that's not gonna happen. Yeah. So, the decision is there, whether black, white, Indian, an alien, or whatever the decision is, it's theirs. Yes.
All right, good man, good.
For me, the career part, no, I don't think we should be pushing their career. I think that they have to find their own place, what they want to do. If they ask me a question, I will help them try to find something, because I say, what do you most enjoy? That's where your career is. You don't want, just because I'm a pastor doesn't mean you have to be a pastor. I fell into this not because, first of all, because a pastor is not to go. You don't go. You're called. So regardless of where you are, this is not a hierarchy, or it's not a what do you call it when you talk about kingdoms? It's not a king passing down to his son. There's none of that. This is pastoring is supposed to be based on your call. So I wouldn't do that as a career. Maybe if I was a scientist, I might think differently. I might say, I'm a scientist. I want my child to be a scientist. But again, oftentimes your child will navigate to you, you navigate to who you are, because that's what they see. So they may like it, they may not. When it comes to marriage, though, I really, really do hope that
I'm listening here.
Single one of my children, if they're listening, every single one of my children seek my opinion. I won't tell them what to do, but I hope they seek my opinion. I think that, and this is one of the good things about having, mom and dad at home, I was able to seek their opinion. And probably if I listened to them, my first one wouldn't have been where it went to, but it did. God forgave me, thank God. But the second one, a lot of things I think would have been said if they were alive, that they would have been in agreement with my choice. And so I think that it's important that the child seeks the parent's opinion, but the parent not tell them who you want to marry, but at least give them an opinion about what they should look for, what that person may or may not offer them, and what they may like. Now, I read that I was going to bring this up. It says here, your wife said one time,
oh my goodness,
told her, I love Daddy so much, I wish I could marry him. Oh my!
That sounds like Sophia. Overseer, that sounds like Sophia.
That's you. That is you. Your daughter. I wish I won't know which one said it. I wish he told me it was Tavisha Patel, because I want to say to them, I'm watching who you marry, because what you said one day was, so your dad, who you marry better be a certain height, better act a certain way. You better bring a 6'3" guy home. That's not your daddy.
Oh my goodness.
I wish I knew which child said that, boy. But that's nice. That's nice. We have to close soon. So Justine Claxton said, my dad was an example of Christ in my life. It was not difficult for me to identify with Christ as father because of his love, hard work, and dedication to all 8 of us, and to my mother. It wasn't perfect, but it was good. Amen. I don't think any family will ever say they were a perfect family. But if it's just a good family, you are way above a lot of other people. I'm not seeing any more questions.
Overseer, yeah. But Overseer, thank you, man. That's a great conversation today. Thank you for sharing. I felt your heart. Amen. I hope I was at that heart level as well.
Yes, you were. Yes,
this was a great conversation, and I hope our audience really appreciate this. And thank all our audience. Thank you so much for being here. We truly appreciate you, and we expect you back next Monday.
Yeah, and if we don't get a chance to say it, we're saying it now to all the great fathers that are watching. Happy Father's Day.
Father's
You guys
Day.
are doing a tremendous job. You're doing great. If your child is going through and you're still there for your child, you're doing great. Don't be discouraged if something is going south with your child. If you're there for your child, you're doing great. You've done a great job, because there's a lot of kids that are going south who don't have anybody to turn to, and they keep going south. But if you are there for your child, they're holding on to you, and they're not falling because you're holding on to them. So just keep holding on. Sooner or later, they're going to be picked up. They're going to be grateful and thankful to you. Just keep loving them. Keep doing what you're doing. You're a great father. So to all you guys out there, keep going on. Happy Father's Day. Love you all. Talk to you.
Yes, beautiful.
Bishop, you know you're a great dad. I've seen you. You even have my daughter calling you Uncle Paul. Which I got to try to stop her to call him. He's not my brother like that. Don't call him Uncle Paul. No.
Thank you, Overseer. You're a great dad. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And to our audience, God bless you all.
God bless. Take care, everybody. Until next week.
Everybody.
Subscribe and like. Subscribe and like. There's no music for some reason. I don't know why there's no music.
Well,
okay, the songs are going. Everybody is supposed to be music playing. The BadMan, BadMan. Hallelujah! We'll have this again. Take care, everybody. God bless.
Bless you. All right.